Right, welcome back to Music with Marcel J. And today we have a very special friend of mine. He goes by the name of Kai. He's one of Houston's greatest musicians. And I can definitely say that for all the work he's done for me. Now there's an ongoing thing about this show, and you're probably not aware of it.
Okay.
But the thing is, everybody I interview, I get to perform with.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, sure, that's going to be good for me.
Cool deal. Okay. All right. Now that we got that out the way,
Right.
that's squared away.
No problem.
I'm sure everybody wants to know where this guy's from. So that's going to be our first question.
I was born in Arizona, and I was raised in California, and moved to Texas in the early 80s, around 82, and been here ever since. Here in Dallas, the Plano area, and moved here to Houston in 2000, in the year 2000. And God's been just blessing and open doors since then.
Cool deal.
So that's where I'm kind of a Texas West Coast cowboy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at what point in your life did music become an inspiration for you?
Music was an inspiration for me. You know, Marcel, I actually grew up in a house of music, and ever since I was a little boy, you know, music was actually something that we enjoyed. My mom actually recorded with Mozart, and my dad was a music major, graduate with master's in music from the musical school in Denton, and it's a kind of alma mater there. But yeah, I just grew up with music. I grew up with listening to Stevie Wonder, you know, Donny Hathaway, all the greats, you know, Roberta Flack's and the Nat King Cole's and things of that nature, and as well as the gospels. I had a family member which is kind of famous. His name is Andre Crouch. And, so the gospel was always a part of my family, with Andre and with the Hawkins and the Clark sisters and all those different influences. You know, music was always something that was in my home. And the wonderful thing I loved about being growing up in that environment is that I had at an early age a deep appreciation for all, you know, the whole spectrum of music. So it was very influential in my musical training.
Right. So at what point did you decide, okay, what level or style of music to go at?
Well, the style was always gospel because, you know, I grew up in the church. I'm a church boy. So I grew up in the church, grandfather pastor, Church of God in Christ Church in Tucson, Arizona. And so I started playing and singing when I was 3 and 4. And I started, and I never forget, the first song I sang was the old Hawkins classic, Edwin Hawkins and Walter, Dear Jesus, I Love You.
Okay.
And ever since then, I've just been singing, and since then, and then my mother started pastoring, and when she pastored, we didn't have a musician, so she laid hands on me and asked God to bless me. And I started playing, we were about four chords in the key of E flat, and kept on transposing those to all the various chords, and it landed me a minister of music job at the age of 13.
Wow.
Yeah, in Kansas City, in a country here called Waxahachie, Texas. I had about 25 people in my choir. Yeah, so it's been 22 plus years now, and I've been doing music ministry and music as a passion.
Wow. So why Christian? I mean, considering the fact of your age, and everything that's out now as far as R&B, rap, I mean, what really got you motivated and got you stuck on just the whole Christian music genre? Well,
you know, like I said earlier, I grew up in the house listening to Luther and to Donnie and to Stevie and to you know even some country and western. So I had a deep appreciation for it. But because I was brought up and raised in church, singing music was out in front of people was always going to be, you know, church music because of Granddad. Anybody knows anything about the Holiness movement or the Church of God in Christ movement, they know that, you know, that those things were not smiled upon. But as I grew older, because I had such a deep appreciation for the R&B and for the classic gospel and the classic smooth jazz and things of that nature, it became a struggle because I was good at it. I became really good at it. I became a student of Stevie and the riffs. I became the actual timbre student of Luther and so forth and so on, the phrasing of Will Downing and the Freddie Jacksons, and then the actual vocal skill and arrangements of Nat King Cole and so forth and so on. That I began to be able to sing those things after listening to them, singing them in the kitchen, and I could sing them in the studio, and I could sing them on the stage. And so in 2000, in 1999, I actually released my first album, which was a gospel album, which was a small label deal, a private label actually, my own. And then in 2001, I released an album that was about love. and about the ups and downs, and that was a strictly R&B album.
Right.
So, but because I was involved in ministry, at some point it became a conflict because I was wondering, okay, God, how can you get glory out of this if I'm singing in both environments? Right. Well, then the Lord revealed to me that I shouldn't necessarily have to sing in the secular environment and feel condemned and vice versa. But then He gave me the actual idea that I would be able to sing about love. Just not about the sensuality of it,
right,
which is the actual sensation, which basically doesn't really say anything about relationship. It just talks about my feeling about you and how you look. But when we talk about what love does, what love gives, and how it hurts not to be loved, these types of things you can talk. So I started putting pen to paper about marriage, about life, and about children. And then the Lord just released me about 4 years ago that I would be a Christian artist that would always sing about love on my albums, and in the format of an R&B song, but the type that's respectable.
Exactly.
And so that's I've arrived.
Okay. Now, being that we're talking about the previous album that you did, what is the vision for the album you have coming out? Because I hear that you're actually working on something present.
Yeah, I am. I'm working on a new album. It's called My Soul Confessions. I'm approaching my late 20s. I'm just kidding. Not quite. But the Lord has just been doing some things in my life, and I've gone through some relationships. The Lord's blessed me with some beautiful children, and but of course, in my 20 plus years of being involved in music and ministry, and just being a human in today's society, it's fueled with a lot of disappointments and a lot of things that you have to just have some type of determination to continue. So what I've done is that I've taken everything that I've been through, and I've entitled the album My Soul Confessions, which is basically confessing to God how I feel about the promises that He made for me, how I feel about my successes, about how I feel about what I didn't do or did do in my 20s, and now that I'm in my 30s, where am I going in life, and how my walk with Christ reflects that. Some of the disappointments and some of the issues, some of my sins, and some of the things that God has forgiven me from some of the mistakes that I make that I wish I could take back. Some of the mistakes that I made, but God never gave me the consequences for those decisions. These are things, my soul confession, just confessing to God with an audience that is happening to listen in, much like this audience. God bless y'all for being here today. So I'm just, just grateful to God for that. And so it's my confessions from my soul.
Gotcha. What inspirations do you have, or can I say, what would you tell an up-and-coming artist or musician to get them, give them confidence in what they're doing? Because I personally know a lot of musicians that are struggling with a lot of those things we were just talking about, as far as performing in the club and playing at church. I mean, what information?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting that you should ask that question and phrase it that way, because the song I'm thinking about having you perform on is a song that's called "Be Honest," and a song the Lord gave me about the fact that God's love for us is not conditional. It's not something that we have to earn. The Bible says that it is called His unmerited favor, and that means that you can't earn it. And if you can't earn it, and it's a gift, then what happens is that you can't do anything to unearn it either.
Right.
So what happens is that if you have someone that loves you unconditionally like that, then you can just come to them and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic. But you said you love me, so I know you love me. Right. Not that I drink alcohol or that I'm an alcoholic or that I have this vice, but you said you love me, and not the sin that I do, but you love me. So therefore, that frees you up to say, okay, this is where I am, this is where I want to be, this is where I've been. And you come to God with an open mind and say, God, I believe that you love me, and I bring my gifts and my talents before you. Second thing I tell them is to just perfect your gift. Spend time dedicated to what you love, and make sure that this is what you love. And then allow the Lord, whether you sing R&B, gospel, country western, or hip-hop, or whatever you do, just allow the Lord to have first place in your life, because there's nothing that you can get that can replace Him.
Well, we're going to go ahead and take a break right here, and we're going to come back with the song that was written by Kai, and he's allowing me to perform on it.
Absolutely.
It's called Be Honest. So we'll be back at 2 and 2. Catch you in a minute.
Thanks, man.